Hi, I'm Daniel Fox, and I'd like to welcome you to DFoxFitness. This video is about abdominal and core development and the many myths and misconceptions that go along with it. So first you have to look at the abdominal muscles themselves. The external muscles that everybody wants to see out on the beach and out in the pool are known as the rectus abdominis. These muscles are actually just one straight sheath of muscle that is divided up by your genetic disposition of the bands of fascia that go across it. So you've got to imagine it kind of like, I've had it described to me as an analogy, like a water balloon with rubber bands tied around it. And you are genetically predisposed to how they are shaped. So what I'm basically trying to say is, there's no such thing as upper and lower abs. Your rectus abdominal muscles are one sheet of muscle, just divided up with bands of fascia. So to work the lower abs is actually basically a misconception. To actually develop the lower abdominals, most people are missing two things. Number one, they have too much fat on their lower stomach. You carry more fat and more subcutaneous fluid in your lower stomach region, and of course, you know, the lower back and the hips, etc., than you do on the upper stomach region. This is why people who are beginning to work their abdominals will see abdominal development in the upper region before they see in the lower region. The second reason why people actually do lack lower abdominal development is because although there are no lower and upper abs, this isn't like, you know, your chest where there's an upper and lower chest, or your back which is divided in sections. There is a point where people are contracting mainly the upper abdominals and they are missing out on a full contraction of the entire core. So their lower abdominals do become less developed than our upper abdominals. But what really creates the shape of the lower abdominals is fat loss and actually working the pelvic region. That's what brings out that I guess you can call it a V cut of the psoas muscles, the hip flexors that indent into, you know, all your leg muscles. So to basically achieve total core development, excluding the obliques of course and all the underlying muscles of the abdominals, you need to do a variety of exercises, but every single core exercise should target the entire core. It's actually entire core exercises is actually what prevents the stomach from protruding. It is what gives you that flat stomach look. Just developing the rectus abdominals, the external muscles, through exercises like crunches and, you know, planks and such, most people aren't actually contracting their entire core enough. They are missing out on the development of the transverse and inverse abdominals, which is actually the underlying tissues that hold in all the visceral body fat, and of course, you know, it's made to protect your organs. Another common myth that goes with a lot of pro bodybuilders these days, that they have stomach distension caused from growth hormone and insulin usage. And although this is entirely possible, this isn't really what causes that major distension of the abdominal region. If that were the case, these athletes would be constricting themselves with their own vital organs. Although it's not impossible for growth hormone to do this, it isn't why they have stomach distension. The reason why they have stomach distension is because bodybuilders back in the 70s, 80s, 60s, they would do exercises that mainly tighten the core. They would focus on, although many of them didn't realize it at the time, the exercises they would do would work total core development. So they would indirectly be training their transverse and inverse abdominals rather than just working the rectus abdominis. What's causing the stomach detention, and it's not just in bodybuilding, it's in a ton of sports. I mean, it's no secret that powerlifters have, you know, massive stomach distension, as well as obviously lots of much more subcutaneous body fat than, you know, the average athlete. A lot of this is due to direct work of the rectus abdominis combined with an increase in anabolic hormones. Their rectus abdominis muscles are growing in size in order to match all their other appendages, which are also enormous. But they aren't doing anything to work the transverse and inverse abdominals, so it is underdeveloped, and this causes the distension of the gut because of the visceral body fat pushing out along with the mass of the rectus abdominal muscles. Another thing that is going to cause you to have stomach distension is wearing a belt all the time when you train. I see this now with a ton of bodybuilders, and it's much more common with powerlifters, but I don't know, it's this new thing started in, I guess it started in the 90s, bodybuilders training with belts all the time. Like, I'm all for wearing a belt when you're squatting and deadlifting heavy, but you don't need to walk around just wearing a damn belt. I mean, that's going to cause stomach distension over time. It truly is. It causes your core to weaken indirectly. And on top of that, it'll also cause, it'll likely set you up for some spinal column issues because your core is becoming so weak from any stability work. So these are the main things that cause stomach distension, and these are the main things that people should focus on when they are trying to have total core development. You should do exercises like slant board sit-ups because they cause you to tighten the entire core, excluding the lower back, of course. Even the obliques are actually worked through exercises that cause more core stability. Now, of course, you can directly target obliques, and don't listen to people telling you that directly targeting your obliques will increase the size of your abdominal wall. This is a load of crap. It really is. It'll, if anything, it'll actually cause them to be tighter, just like any other total abdominal exercise. So when you're working your core, make sure that you're doing exercises that focus on total core stability. And of course, exercises such as front squats and deadlifts, I mean most exercises where you perform them without wearing a belt, although I do recommend wearing a belt when you're going 80% of your 1 rep max or over. Exercises like that will cause the core to tighten indirectly. But just make sure that when developing a complete core, other than just isolating everything, which is fine, it does bring out the definition more, make sure that you're also achieving total core development that works the transverse and inverse abdominals. If you want that flat stomach look as well as thick abdominals without having a distending gut, this is what you need to do. So thanks for watching. I hope you learned a little bit about abdominals today. More to come, of course, and feel free to ask me any questions. Don't be afraid to subscribe here, and feel free to check out my personal website here.